Let me be honest with you. Every single time I reach Division 1 with 0 losses, people always assume one thing. They think I'm using a full epic squad. They think I'm spending crazy coins. They think I have some secret broken tactic. But the truth is way simpler than that. I do this as a free-to-play player. No pay-to-win shortcuts, no glitch. Just discipline, smart decisions, and a few habits that most players completely ignore. And once you understand these habits, you'll realize something important. Reaching Division 1 without losing is not about having the best players. It's about controlling the game before the match even starts. The first thing I always do, before tactics, before formations, before anything, is make sure my internet is perfect. This sounds basic, but it's probably the biggest reason most players lose matches. At home, I have very strong Wi-Fi, and I never play ranked matches, unless the connection is stable. Because in eFootball, delay is basically your biggest enemy. When your connection is bad, your players react slower, passes feel heavy, defending becomes inconsistent. And suddenly you start blaming scripting when the real issue is just lag. So if you want to climb consistently, your first rule should be simple. Never play important matches with unstable internet. Because even the best tactics in the world cannot fix bad connection. Now, once my connection is solid, the next thing I focus on is something most players get wrong. Formation choice. I don't copy formations from YouTube. I don't switch tactics just because they look meta. Instead, I always use formations that I personally understand. Because a formation only works if you know how it behaves. You need to know where your players will move. You need to understand your passing angles instinctively, and that only comes from familiarity. Many players keep changing formations every week, hoping to find a magical setup, but that actually hurts their consistency. For me, I stick to what I know best, because when you truly understand your formation, you play faster, make better decisions, and stay confident even under pressure. Another thing that surprises people is how simple my skill moves are. I don't spam flashy dribbles. I don't try complicated combos. I mainly rely on just 2 attacking skills, double touch and fake shot. That's it. Double touch is perfect for creating quick space in tight areas. It's fast, safe, and hard to predict. Fake shot, on the other hand, is amazing for freezing defenders. It creates hesitation, and in eFootball, hesitation equals opportunity. By mastering just these 2 skills, I can beat defenders consistently without overcomplicating my gameplay. Because the more simple your moves are, the more reliable they become. Defensively, my approach is even more disciplined. I almost never spam sliding tackles. Because constant sliding is one of the biggest mistakes players make. It pulls your defenders out of position. It creates huge gaps. And if you miss, you're basically giving your opponent a free attack. Instead, I focus heavily on using the matchup command. This is probably the most underrated defensive tool in the entire game. When you use matchup properly, your defenders stay balanced. They block passing lanes automatically. They react quicker to dribbles. And they force opponents into mistakes without reckless challenges. Alongside that, I manually switch defenders constantly. This helps me close passing lanes early instead of chasing the ball blindly. So instead of reacting late, I'm always predicting the next move. And that's what makes my defense very hard to break. But honestly, the biggest difference between Division 1 players and everyone else is not tactics. It's mentality. I always stay calm, especially when the game feels unfair. Because we all know those moments when things don't go your way. When your players miss easy chances. When rebounds always fall to your opponent. When it feels like scripting is against you. Most players react emotionally in those situations. They rush attacks. They force passes. They start making desperate decisions. And that's exactly how they lose. For me, I treat those moments differently. I slow the game down, I focus more on safe possession, and I remind myself that frustration is the fastest way to lose control, because once your emotions take over, your decision-making drops instantly. Another habit that helps me stay consistent is taking breaks after losses. I never jump straight into another match when I'm angry, because playing while frustrated makes you impatient. You stop reading the game properly, you rush everything, and you make mistakes you normally wouldn't make. So whenever I lose or feel tilted, I step away. Even a short break resets your mindset. And when you return calm, your gameplay becomes sharper again. One last thing that gives me a huge advantage is how I analyze opponents during matches. Most players ignore small behavioral clues, but I pay attention to them carefully. For example, when an opponent pauses the game, especially in the second half, it usually means they're changing tactics or formations. That's a huge signal, because it allows me to prepare mentally. If they're losing, they might switch to ultra-attacking. If they're winning, they might park the bus. By anticipating these changes, I adjust my approach before the game even resumes. And that proactive thinking helps me stay one step ahead. So when people ask me how I reach Division 1 with 0 losses as a free-to-play player, the answer isn't flashy. It's not about expensive squads. It's not about secret glitches. It's about consistency in the basics, strong internet, formations you truly understand, simple, reliable skill moves, disciplined defending with matchup, calm mentality under pressure, smart breaks to avoid tilt, and constantly reading your opponent. Because in eFootball, winning consistently isn't about playing harder. It's about playing smarter. And once you master that mindset, Division 1 without losses stops feeling impossible. It just becomes routine.